Hi, my name is Dana Vosberg, and this is my final project presentation for the course Motor Learning and Movement Control. The activity I chose to teach my subject was speed stacking cups. Speed stacking cups are primarily used in physical education classes and by competitive sports stackers. They are also enjoyed by individuals and families who want a fun and challenging activity to improve hand-eye coordination and quickness. I am a school-based occupational therapy assistant, and we use speed stacking cups with our students. In our school-based practice, we utilize speed stacking cups to address various functional skills. We focus on fine motor development, hand-eye coordination, and cognitive skills like focus and attention. My goal for this project was to teach my 14-year-old son how to use the speed stacking cups to complete the cycle stack in under 1 minute. My subject for this project was my son Carter. He just turned 14 years old. He is in 8th grade. He's right-hand dominant and athletic. And he is also considered neurodivergent because he is dyslexic. Carter's strengths and weaknesses prior to practicing. Carter's innate abilities played a role in his strengths. He is athletic, coordinated, he can follow verbal and visual directions, and has a good sense of body awareness. His abilities were genetically determined, as my husband and I are both athletic and have good motor coordination. His low working memory would be considered an ability, since that is the way his brain is wired, but it is also a weakness. Practice helped improve his memory with this activity, even though he has challenges in this area. Carter's skills reflect his performance during a skilled activity. He was able to improve his speed stacking skills by practicing every day. The cycle stack would be considered a serial skill, as each stack moves into the next until all 3 stacks are completed to form the cycle stack. It is a mixed motor and cognitive skill involving both decision-making and motor behavior. It would also be considered a closed skill, as the stacking always happens at a table using the same type of cups, and to complete the cycle stack, you have to go through the stacks in a predictable pattern.
Hey, it's Emmy again. In this session, we're going to learn the premier stack in sports stacking, the cycle stack. It consists of 3 parts. Looks like this. It's going to be a 3, 6, 3, up and down. A 6, 6, up and down. We're going to end with a 1, 10, 1, ending in a 3, 6, 3. So let's learn how to do that cycle stack. We're going to
Just do.
I messed up, wait.
Just keep on.
So leave that one in the middle. Wait, that was...
Okay, then go back to the beginning and take it down. Yeah, and take that one down. Okay, now you're gonna make 2 piles of 6. So put those 2 3s together. Okay, now you're gonna start over there.
What is that 2?
Okay, so pick up a group of 3 in one hand and 2 in the other. 2, and then pick up 2 in one. Okay. Okay, now go back to the beginning and take it down. Okay, now put them all together except for the 2 on the ends. Yeah, stand it up. One goes up like this.
Does it really matter?
Okay, now you're gonna stack that up and
4?
2 cups. One goes on the top one, and then one goes on the second one, and you're gonna slide.
This?
Yep. And then you're gonna make a pile of 3, 6, 3.
He did 3. Done.
This is an overview of our practice schedule. Carter practiced 5 days weekly for 2 weeks for 30 minutes each session. The 30 minutes were broken down into 3 sections. For the first 5 minutes, he would watch the YouTube training video. There is a great series that walks you through each stack and it is easy to follow. Then he would practice different speed drills for 20 minutes, working on his hand positioning and transitions. At first, he worked slowly to build the motor pathways, and then he could work on increasing his speed. The last 5 minutes, we would review any videos of him and talk about areas to improve. The phases of this activity included watching the training video, then practicing. First, he learned the 3-3-3 stack to get the basics. Then he learned the 3-6-3 stack, the 6-6 stack, and finally the 1-10-1 stack. After learning all the stacks separately, he learned how to transition from one stack to the next to complete the cycle stack. Some of the on-task practice considerations included the distribution of practice. Distributed practice occurs when rest occupies a more significant portion of time than work. This type of practice produces greater performance. Since we had 2 weeks of practice, this type of practice made the most sense. Variability of practice. Carter used constant practice, where the parameters and environment were the same each time. He always watched a video, then me, and then practiced independently at my desk in the living room. Scheduling practice. Carter used block practice. He would perform the same task several times in a row before moving on to the next step. Part versus whole practice. Carter used part practice. The training videos break down the steps to ultimately complete the cycle stack. He first worked on the basics using a 3-3-3 stack, and then from there, he progressed with each stack and transition, which got a little more difficult. Guidance. Guidance involves physically moving the learner through the task. Carter did not require this type of support, but in my work as an occupational therapy assistant, I have used hand-over-hand support to help move the students' bodies in the correct motor pattern to help with initial performance and then over time, reducing the physical support and using more verbal and visual supports. Some of the off-task practice considerations included motivation. At first, Carter was not motivated to learn how to stack the cups, but I needed him for this project, so he had little choice. Lacking intrinsic motivation initially hindered his learning because he didn't want to practice. After a few days of practicing and improving, he began to enjoy the activity, and I could see that his intrinsic motivation to improve started to show. By the second week of training, he was practicing outside of our practice schedule to improve, and he enjoyed learning the stacks and improving his time. We used achievable goals, and I gave him encouraging feedback, but I also pointed out areas of improvement. Verbal information. In the beginning, clear verbal instructions helped Carter learn the key steps of the skill, like where to place his hands and how to move the cups in the right sequence. Perceptual learning. Before starting stacking, Carter had time to explore the setup and become comfortable with the cups and layout. This made him more confident when it was time to perform. Observational learning. Carter watched videos of other kids stacking and then tried himself. This helped him visualize the movement, catch his own mistakes, and improve over time. This back and forth between watching and doing was effective. Mental practice. Carter also used mental practice, visualizing and verbalizing the sequence of moves, including hand patterns of right, left, right when stacking the cups. This helped reinforce what he'd learned, even when he wasn't actively stacking. Slow. All right, do it again, slow.
can't do that slow.
Do it again. I want you to go slow so when we look at the video you can see your
Oh,
hand.
I'm gonna look at you just in case. Yeah, but if I do it slow, it's not the real version.
Just in case this student does get it.
Right, but what you're building is a motor memory. So your body is going to remember the motions whether you do it fast or slow. So when you do it slow, you're building the patterns, and then when you go fast, you don't have to think about anything because your body remembers. Alright, I think you need to work on getting your cups a little more organized, because that's where you're going to make mistakes if you don't have them spread out properly.
Cameron, can you stop? I'm gonna play the game when you're right in front of the TV.
Here.
Good. Other thing is you are bending over, but I want you to try to do, like spread your feet apart and do more of like a squat. Yeah, like that.
Pop it, Dad. Take a pop it.
Harder.
Yep.
Don't pop it.
I can't do squat.
Squat down.
I can't.
Just bend down.
Alright, can you get out of the way of the TV, please, Cameron?
Alright. Slow. The phases of learning. The cognitive phase happens at the beginning of learning a new skill. During this phase, Carter would say the sequence for up stacking and down stacking the cups out loud. Right, left, right. This helped him develop a motor plan and to execute the stack correctly. He would often try to move too fast in this process and get frustrated when he would make mistakes. I reminded him that moving slowly is necessary to build those motor patterns at the beginning, so you don't have to think about it when moving fast. The associative phase happens when you get the hang of the general movements. During practice, he would rely on me for verbal feedback on mistakes, but he would also catch himself when he made a mistake and start over. The autonomous phase is the final phase of learning. In this phase, the learner no longer needs to use conscious attention to the task. The motor patterns are so developed that the actions are more automatic. By the end of training, Carter definitely reached this phase. He was able to focus more on speed than how to stack the cups, which ultimately led to him insanely improving his time from over 2 minutes to under 30 seconds for the cycle stack. Assessing progress. Process measures are observable during the task and identify the quality of the movement used, which would be subjective to the person observing. I could observe Carter's improvement after each practice session as he reduced errors and moved the cups more efficiently. Outcome measures indicate improvement in the task through end results, like Carter's improvement in his time after each practice, which would be an objective measure that is easy to compare trial to trial. Fitts' law also goes nicely with this slide. Fitts' law is the relationship between movement time and movement difficulty. It also states that by increasing speed, you may sacrifice your accuracy until you have had enough practice. At the beginning of training, Carter often tried to move too fast and made many mistakes. I encouraged him to move slowly until he understood how to do the stack. Body movements. Attention played a big part in Carter's body movements. Internal attention is when you focus on your body movements and sensory consequences. During the cognitive phase of learning, Carter was focused on how to hold the cup correctly and with how much force. If he held the cup too tight, he couldn't drop it, or if he slammed the cup too hard, the stack would fall over. External attention occurs when one focuses on objects or external consequences. During the associative and autonomous phases, Carter focused more on moving cups in the correct sequence. Carter would often choke when he transitioned from untimed practice to being timed. He would shift his attention from the automatic motor movements to thinking about needing to go super fast. This shift in attention caused him to make many errors, and that often resulted in him giving up on that cycle stack and starting over. I would verbally cue him to move slowly and in control, giving him a faster time since he wasn't making many mistakes. Practice breakdown. In the beginning, Carter stood straight up with his legs straight. After watching the training videos and based on my previous experience teaching kids, I instructed him to bend his knees and lean towards the cups. He was resistant about bending down, but he would ultimately lean forward closer to the cups, keeping his arms and his hands closer to the cups, which resulted in faster time. strengths and weaknesses post-practice. Many of Carter's strengths remained after practicing. He was still athletic, coordinated, and he was able to learn the stacks quickly. Another strength that happened over time was improvement in his motivation. He really enjoyed trying to beat his time during each practice session. His weaknesses shifted a little bit. He would often get frustrated when he made a mistake and would want to give up. He would often forget steps when transitioning between stacks. His low working memory definitely played a role in this.
Did I do good on time?
Yeah.
Did I go before it?
No, you got it. Post-practice breakdown. By the end of training, Carter would automatically bend down and lean towards the cups. He kept his elbows bent and wrapped his fingers all the way around the cups in a C formation. He would use both hands simultaneously during up stacks and down stacks, which helped improve his time. If I were to do this again, I would definitely use the training videos. These were so helpful in teaching the stacks and giving him little tips and strategies to use. I would also review the basics during each session and time him to keep him motivated. Something that didn't work well was that at first he was not intrinsically motivated to learn how to use the stacking cups. Also, if he got super silly or moved too fast, I would sometimes get frustrated with him. And when I would get frustrated, he would get frustrated. So for me, working on staying calm and staying positive when teaching him would have worked better. The other thing that would have been helpful would have been to have the tabletop timer that goes with the mat. So we had the mat and the cups, but there's also a timer that the stackers use that they tap right before they start. And we didn't have that, so I had to time him on my phone each time. And he liked to practice outside of our scheduled practice sessions, and so it would have been helpful for him to have that timer to work on beating his time whenever he wanted to practice. Other than that, it was a lot of fun doing this with my son, and I'm happy that he ended up enjoying it. Next, I'm going to try this with my 9-year-old. Wish me luck.